This is going to feel like you just jumped into the vehicle with us and you are getting ready to enjoy the morning together. This is a deep dive on pasture management, improving soil health, and just some of the details behind how Roberta increased productivity significantly in her flock on a pasture-based system. I hope you guys enjoy, and please remember that this video is brought to you by Shepherdess.com, where I provide you with resources, both paid and free, to launch your very own sheep farming journey.
I'm Roberta Mckowen. My husband and I, Keller McKeown, have been raising sheep for the past 20 years in Jackson, Louisiana. That's about 25 miles north of Baton Rouge. I bought sheep in 2003 to entertain my dog. I had an agreement with a person that I was allowed to purchase their Katahdin Welsh Corgi if I put AKC titles on them. And herding is what it turned out to be, so I had to buy sheep.
How many did you start with?
I bought a herd of 12 11 wethers, 1 ewe, so it wasn't a breeding program. For the first 10 years of my sheep career, it was a agro-tourism. Sheep were just a vehicle for dog training. I gave some thought, a little bit of thought, to what breed of sheep to choose, and I chose Katahdin for its history of worm resistance and who else was raising sheep. You know, it's a smart idea to look at what successful people are doing and do the same thing.
If I was to come up to you and say, hey, I'm brand new into sheep, I want to buy a set of sheep, what's your guidance for me before I go and waste money on disease?
Fences and the sheep's big predators, parasites, and hoof disease. You have to have dog, coyote eliminating, and it might be bear, it might be puma. It's probably going to be your neighbor's dog chasing sheep for fun. If that's electric fences, I wouldn't much rather see people not put their sheep up at night in small pens. That's just congregating hoof disease. They're almost guaranteed. The bacteria that propagate hoof disease, Dichelobacter, it doesn't live in the soil for more than 6 days. So you're grazing them out and rotationally grazing them out in that pasture on the far north. And then you bring them in every night to bed down in the same place and get reinfected. So people that make those little tractor hutches and pull it to the next location would be far better off letting that sheep sleep underneath a natural tree where there's better air circulation.
Do you feel like you were fully prepared for sheep when they arrived? Would you have gone back and told yourself anything?
No, I was not fully prepared. I had fences, but we lost sheep to coyotes within, I don't know, 90 feet of my house, certainly 300 feet. And to this day, if I have a secondary micro herd of sheep separated from I've kept 3 to 5 to 7 guard dogs. And if all of my guard dogs are with the main herd, I've had groups of rams up here 90 feet away from my house killed by coyotes. And I had that confirmed. I brought out Wildlife and Fisheries and I can have photos I can show you of the teeth marks and the slashes. It was juvenile coyotes practicing.
What do you do for that?
Livestock guardian dogs.
And what's your experience with them? I've heard a lot of horror stories. I have a personal horror story about them. How would you advise?
They are not all successful. And you need to be able to admit that from the get-go. And Texas Ag Life, Bill Costanza in San Angelo runs a great research program. I would go listen to what he has to say. He tests out various theories and has about 8 big ranches where he is able to prove or disprove various theories.
Have you ever had any that have become more attached to you? You find them at your back door, rather than with the flock ever?
I discourage that behavior. Throw a rock at them, holler at them. Absolutely never feed your livestock guardian dog at your house. I take a trip, they only get fed with the herd.
Biggest challenges in your first 5 years? You may have already cited some of them.
Predators. Predators first. When you own sheep, you have a 7-year golden ticket. You won't have saturated your property. It might be less than 7 years if your property's really small, but you have some finite period of time when your land is virgin, and it's going to take saturation over multiple years before you reach that point where you can really, the difference between good management and poor management will show up. Prior to that, it's blind luck, and you're probably going to be successful.
And when you're speaking in terms of saturation, do you mean parasite?
Parasite saturation, yeah.
I graduated from vet school in '85, the same year that ivermectin is released. It's the deworming version of penicillin, okay? Listen to what I'm going to say and put this in your head. It's the biggest part of me. When I graduated from school, there were more than 300 pharmaceutical companies. If you wanted to deworm an animal, there were at least 16 different chemicals that you could have chosen. If that customer was poor or squeamish, a veterinarian could have chosen 60 different products to do the same. And in my little hometown of Zachary, there was a drug manufacturer. He made one drug. It was an old-fashioned and had bad side effects, but under some circumstances, it was the appropriate choice. Those 300 were consolidated down, bought up into 200. By the time and then 100, and then 30. By the time I retired 10 years ago, there were only 3 choices, and they would intentionally buy and close down the factory of their competitors. So my client didn't have a choice. They had to use the $300 product. There was a 60-cent product. It had some drawbacks, but it was a 66-cent product. And for some person in some circumstances, that was the right choice. And those choices were just removed without the general public realizing that their choices were being removed. So they pushed me more and more to being, I really wasn't an alternative medicine person as much as an independent-minded thinking person.
You just made the decision to stop deworming. We already talked about why on the trail, and we have that. You went cold turkey. Basically, how much died?
50%. 50% died the first year. Second year, 25% died. I'm making this up. This is a story I tell, but it was a hard, cold truth. Think of the plague, you know. Some of them had immunity, some of them didn't. I had a catastrophic event that was my own fault. I didn't look closely enough. I didn't match my feed on offer to the needs of the biological needs of the animals at that time. And I never want that to happen again.
As a result of what weather conditions?
It never snows in Louisiana. Well, it did snow, and that caused those sheep to have a sudden burst of nutritional demand. There was a weather forecast for snow, and I didn't take it seriously. It never snows here. We don't know how to drive in the snow. We take snow holidays if there's a half inch of snow. So I could have taken preemptive measures. You need to feed calories 7 days in advance of a catastrophic event. It's not calories in your stomach at that moment. It's fat on your body that you can mobilize for energy to prevent. So it's not necessarily, it's not a sin. You shouldn't shame yourself to death. You shouldn't shame your sheep to death. I had to go out and buy a tractor trailer load of alfalfa that day. I had to be careful about what I fed. If I fed grain, it would be 2-calorie dense. But they had to get some high quality nutrients in them. We always have baled ryegrass hay, and my sheep right now are eating 1 bale per day for probably 90 days. You never know what the weather is going to do. You may only consume 80, but you might consume 120. So I'll keep that standard. Then I keep a fund of money so that if I have to go out and buy sheep rations by the ton, I can do that. My husband uses the tractor and backs up, and I run a line of feed, and they can get a pound a day. If a catastrophic weather event were to happen and the grass weren't available, we'll have hay, we'll have grain, we'll have a wind barrier, some trees that they can get in.
That's really, really good.
And then the other thing would be planning pregnancy. You have some times of the year that will be advantageous or advantageous. So I now have a planned pregnancy, planned breeding program. I ultrasound my ewes. Any that aren't pregnant, I sell, or I may re-expose to the ram, but I'm going to sell. 2 years ago, was the last year that I had a dystocia death. I haven't had them since I started a planned breeding program. If everybody has the same biology, they're in the same stage of pregnancy, they have the same needs, I can provide for them all the same. But if somebody's in the first trimester while somebody else is in the third trimester, I can't meet I'm too small at 300 ewes. I'm too small to run separate trimester. So everybody has to be on the same plan.
So what's your window? What's your breeding window?
It was 51 days. Australia wants you to move it down to 34 days, 2 heat cycles, but no more than 3 heat cycles.
So beyond the natural selection that's happened, have you made any deliberate selection for traits that you want in your ewes?
Twinning. Yeah.
Multiples?
Yeah.
Do you find that that's a genetic trait as much as...
No. Twinning is nutritional. It's 80%. It's more than 80% nutritional. It is somewhat genetic in herds that only keep ewe lambs that were born a twin. They have, over the course of time, bumped their lamb crop up from 1.2, 1.4. So it does have a genetic component, but it's a slight component. Nutrition is the major predictor of lambing. This is a scrapbook.
People always ask me, they say, how do you keep records? And mine's always just in a notebook.
Poorly. Crazy.
Yeah.
And this is all the record keeping I've ever done. Back in the day when I had 12 sheep and every one of them had a pink collar, a blue collar, a yellow collar, and then their lambs were either light pink or light blue. Yeah. I have record keeping from 2003 of who those sheep were and what their pedigrees looked like. Several different record keeping systems. I tried ear notching. Who was pedigreed to who?
What do you do for your breeding rams? Do you have a large enough herd to where you can just pluck one out and breed them back, or do you pull them in fresh genetics?
I've done both. I think if I had to pat myself on the back for a smart thing I've done, many times I bought high reputation, well-bred sheep for a pretty dollar
I dewormed that ram twice. And then I let it die the second time.
So did he have any lambs before he popped off?
No, he died before breeding season.
Wow.
But if you quarantine them and they died of worms during quarantining, one of the best favors I did was throwing away that $1,100.
Yeah. Because of the fact that he just couldn't make it and then he passed that on?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Back in the day, I had a photograph of every sheep.
Yeah.
You know, they had a name, they had a collar code.
When you first started, what quantity did you start with?
12.
That's where everything out there is. Well, of course you added.
No, I bought 11 wethers and 1 ewe. So the breeding didn't start there. That was to entertain my dogs.
Yeah, that's right.
And then a fellow dog trainer had purchased these fancy show sheep.
Yeah.
That person died. I did not realize that he had expensive show sheep.
Yeah.
I offered the estate, his estate, what's that person called that manages the person that curates a dead person's money. I offered them $5 a head above the cost of what they were going to sell them at the auction barn the next day. So I bought $1,100 to $1,800 sheep for $55. And that was my start into sheep. Then I found, like the next year, Sheep Magazine has a centerfold spread. And it has my sheep's ear tags.
Wow.
I went out to did y'all know that y'all were fancy show sheep? But half of them died that year. That story I tell, and then but half of them lived.
So you started with that original purchase from those show sheep. Did you ever have any success adding ewes, buying in replacements?
Yes. I've had 2 other experiences adding in ewes. I advised a young family on how to manage rotational grazing. They had predominantly St. Croix. They needed to get out of the sheep business, so I purchased their stuff.
Okay.
They had fabulous mothers who had twins every time, but they were St. Croix. They looked like
skinny
little Auschwitz sheep, and they had terrible hooves.
Oh.
So did I really do myself a favor? I still have an influence from those 12.
Would you do it over again?
No.
So we have 3 hair breeds right now that are most commonly raised in the U.S. The St. Croix and the Dorper. People are always asking me, what's the best breed? What's the best breed? Can you speak to the fact that there really is no perfect breed?
The best sheep is a sheep that will live. You can't reproduce unless you live. So what's your feet? How are you suited for that environment? Temperature or humidity. A Dorper is better suited for a drier environment. That short, stocky, thick build and that smashed-faced, thick head aren't good in high humidity. They aren't good in high humidity. They can handle heat just fine, but not high humidity.
That's a good point.
So look at the St. Croix. That is a narrower chested, teardrop-shaped animal. That compare that to maybe an Arabian horse, a longer leg, a longer ear. They're there for heat dissipation. Katahdin has some St. Croix in it, and it's a moderate sheep. Mine are not the fattest sheep. They're not the meatiest sheep. If I want to put muscle on sheep, I will use a Dorper as a terminal cross, and I see substantial. When I sorted through my sheep, a lamb crop, the heavies and the lights, and I was colorblind. All the dark pigmented ones were on the heavier side. They were all the Dorper influence, and the Katahdin was the lighter sheep. But 5 years out, those Dorper females are dying at a faster rate. They are not as well suited temperature. It's not going to kill them this year,
but 5 years out. My 11-year-old sheep are Katahdin, and my 7-year-old sheep are Dorper.
Now, you mentioned a term, terminal sire. Tell people what that is.
Oh, okay. It's when you intentionally choose a ram to give a characteristic carcass, but the lamb is intentionally terminated. The females are not suited for that environment.
So you will take that set of ewes that performs really well in your environment and just temporarily cross to create one generation of more marketable lambs.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That makes sense.
This year I'm going to take Australian whites.
I wondered. Give your opinion. People keep asking my opinion on Australian whites. I'm like, I don't have any
They're a Dorper.
yet. They're a Dorper cross.
They're a Dorper. They're a Dorper. They're a white Dorper. I don't rotate my sheep through any pastures that are contiguous with a highway because I don't want my livestock guardian dogs to go onto the highway. Where the cattle are has something to do with it. What weeds we need. Oh, honey, look, that pasture is full of cypress weed. Go put your sheep in there. That pasture has ranunculus, tallow trees. They don't eat horse nettle, but they eat the blossoms off of horse nettle. So my friend Earl Jones showed me that if you'll graze sheep in a pasture for 3 to 4 consecutive years, they will eliminate the reproduction on the horse nettle. Now, your seed bank stores 14 years of horse nettle seed, so it's a continuous battle, but I don't use a minute fraction of the herbicides that my neighbors use.
The soil organic matter. Talk a little bit about that on your place.
Okay, I am super proud to tell you that. So this is a map of our property, right?
Come closer.
Home is where the heart is. This is an NRCS map that has just been translated into quilt form, and we use it to plan and have coffee conversations about where we're going to keep the sheep.
The numbers indicate acreage?
No, they're the NRCS designated numbers.
Okay.
So it's just a name, a number. All the orange is high tensile electric fence. The black is a blacktop road. The blue is a waterway. Those are NRCS water. There's piped water to all those locations. The big blues are ponds. This is the quail trail. Wow. This is where the mushrooms in the woods are most plentiful. But on the back of it, is my soil tests. What's the acreage on a pasture? This is the organic matter. So this is old organic matter, new organic matter. We have basically raised our organic matter 2 or 3 percentage points in 10 years, which is astronomical. Not overgrazing.
Right.
Organic matter might be a good first broad place to start thinking, but microscopically looking at the bacteria, fungi, protozoa, the microflora and fauna in a manner commensurate with Elaine Ingram's analysis is also a super important way to look at soils. It's not just the inorganic chemistry analysis, but the biological or organic chemistry analysis too is important.
How did you make those improvements in your soil organic matter?
Fence, fertilizer, but yeah, lime, there's 3 L's, but put a fence through it. The first time you take a piece of property and cut it in 2, you'll have a 65% increase in utilization on that. And then the second thing is to add lime to it. Oh, legumes, that was it. Lime, and legumes. Now the lime is only true in my acidic soil area here.
Okay, the interesting thing was, and this is just a matter of on a side note, but I had put out some lime just in the water areas for the hoof thing. But my sheep were eating it up, like they really loved it.
No, like they have a deficiency.
Yeah.
Are you using salts?
I am using salts.
Can I go grab my Premier one?
I want to see it. That's gonna, because people are always like, how do you keep records and expecting something fancy, and I pull out my notebook, and so I'm glad to see someone else with a bigger notebook.
I know.
But that's so perfect. I love it.
Sheep and goat micro mineral mix that's intended to promote reproduction.
Did you get the
So that's one of the 3 things I did. I semen tested. I flushed them nutritionally 1 month before ovulation time.
the 1 month before adding the ram, or 1 month? How would that
1
fall
month
in?
before adding the ram.
So that, okay.
You put the females on a high plane of gaining plane of nutrition so that they were more likely to ovulate 2 eggs rather than 1.
Right.
And you supplied them with the selenium, the micronutrients that promote reproduction. I did those 3 things and went from 87 lambs to 226 lambs.
This mix, how do you keep it dry?
It's a 5-pound bag, and I just keep it in the garage. It comes in a sealed pouch.
Do you put it out on pasture at all times, or just before?
No, at all times.
At all times.
It's cheap enough. To go from 87 to 226, and you want to quibble about a $7 package of vitamins? I don't think so.
Good. So let's go double back to the pasture. I think we touched on it a little bit, but the baby might have started, but the primary practices you put in place to increase that soil organic matter are?
Rotational grazing. Rotational grazing.
Was that something you always practiced at this farm?
No.
When did you start?
No, if it wasn't for Southern University putting on those sheep and goat management classes, we would not have heard about NRCS. If we had not heard about NRCS, we'd never heard the word rotational grazing.
When did you start? What year was it when you started?
2011, we signed the NRCS contract, and I think we were fully up and functional probably within just months.
What did it look like for you? Did it just look like putting in one fence at the onset?
We hired a crew and took about 2 or 3 months to fence 228 acres into 20 fields, 27 fields.
So your initial rotation was about 20 different fields.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. And so you would just utilize it. What was when you were in your beginning phases, what did you look for to say it's time to move them to a new one?
Same thing as everybody else does. Height of grass. In the fall, it can get tight.
Was that 20 fences, was that for sheep specific fencing?
Maybe only 17 of them. The gates you went through, a gate doesn't have to be very wrong for a sheep to be. If the gate is 3 inches too high, perfect for a cow, but a sheep would go underneath it. If those two, you'll see all of our gates overlap. They don't meet, they overlap.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Because the sheep will find their way through. I on that list of sins that I will never do again, I can't tell you how many sheep, if the gate doesn't meet by 2 or 3 inches, they'll push it open, get their head stuck, pull back, and strangle. You will see on my gates sometimes 2, 3, 4, or 5 locks on a gate.
Because
If it has 5 locks on that gate, I mean for 5 locks. It's that important.
do you sell your ewes as breeding stock?
A little bit. When I ultrasound for pregnancy, at the same time we're doing teeth, tits, and toes. And if you are, you've reached that point where you're not going to keep up with our herd. I don't want to lose any sheep. So if you didn't ovulate during that 51-day space, If you are pregnant with triplets, I'll sell those $900. If you're pregnant with twins, $700. If you're pregnant with a single, somebody could still get, with some management. I've had those sheep live another 11 years in a pet home.
Yeah.
I have sold some lambs. I don't think this is the smartest thing to do, but people want to start out with 5 ewe lambs or 4 ewe lambs and a ram lamb. Well, that's like having a group of 14-year-olds thrown out on their own. Okay, good luck. I think those people would be far better off with one old ewe and her and 3 old and 3 young ones.
That's a good point.
And then if I have orphan lambs, I give away, sell orphan lambs, you know. And if I have triplets, I'll pull one of those triplets, and I have a person with a milk cow, and she will raise orphans for me. If they are genetically superior orphans, I might ask her for those back. And she knows.
Wow.
So I want to have 500 ewes, and I'm at 300 right now. But it is my ultimate goal. I know that I'm going to die, you know. So I am looking. I don't want to be Mr. Peel, but I want to be a source of good genetic material for the future.
That's really good. I think that's a really good way to look. I mean, be selective even about who you sell to, but know that there's people looking for opportunity out there. You're still young relatively, and you still can get out there every day and do your thing. Do you have children who are interested in the job? When each of my children got married, I gave them a generation of lambs. My son-in-law has taken those, probably 70 ewes that I gave him, and turned that into a flock of his own that he's managing in his own way. It's very similar to ours, but he's taken his own tweak on it. That's neat. So he's carrying that on, really?
Yeah.
That's neat. Is he able to run on the land here that you have?
No, he's on a separate 20 acres. He's running 70 ewes on 20 acres. He's made Premier One a lot of money. It's all in temporary electric fence. When you go home, you could pass his place and just you'll see his sheep.
We have 700 and something acres. That quilt I showed you is an NRCS land use map. It was and is our daily planner. Half of our property is for wildlife management. So we have deer zones, wildlife corridors. On that quilt you'll see embroidered the paths that deer take. Do you know who Elaine Ingram is? No? Ray Archuleta?
Yes.
Okay. She would be a contemporary and on the same level as Ray Archuleta. Her interest and focus is on analyzing soil health by taking samples of soil and teaching ordinary people to recognize a protozoa from a nematode, from a bacteria, from a fungus, right? And some people use pH and calcium and phosphorus and potassium to analyze. The populations of the microbiome in the soil is reflective of what the chemistry reads. I have 228 acres under NRCS sheep appropriate fence. Of those, maybe really only 180 is truly sheep appropriate fence. So technically at 5 sheep per acre, I could run 1,000 sheep. You're taking that picture? Because that's what I look out every morning. That's why the bedroom is situated where it is. A friend of mine was proposed to underneath that tree. That field was planted in iron clay peas and had a terrible weed problem, so that this corner is all full of pigweed. The sheep stripped all the pig leaves off the pigweed. I planted iron clay peas, and in that corner, some agricultural misfortune happened, so that corner is dominated by pigweed. But it's the corner the sheep have to reach first, and they had never eaten iron clay peas before. They didn't know, so for many days they didn't touch the target plant. But they knew pigweed, and they ate the devil out of pigweed. So a big reason, maybe the biggest reason we keep sheep is the herbicide we don't buy, our walking herbicides. There's a beauty to watching them wake up. Watching sheep wake up has its own charm. As a small child, I grew up with 12 sheep, and I'd have to call them pet sheep. Maybe we ate one or two, but everything the Bible says and all the analogies Jesus uses about humans and sheep and behavior, manipulation, foolish, but you know, it's all there. We had sheep named after characters in our lives who were either bossy or foolish. So until I was from 0 to 12 years old, sheep were a part of my life. Then I lived in Australia for 4 years. And while I lived in a place that was not dominated by sheep, you cannot live in Australia and sheep not in some way be a part of the world, you know. Then 40 years go by, and as a veterinarian I was doing rescue work, and I became acquainted with the Katahdin Welsh Corgi breed, and in searching for a cardigan of my own, I came upon someone who required that I perform some AKC. AKC has something called their performance category, and a dog has to herd, do agility, obedience, tracking. So I took one lesson, and my dog loved it. So I bought sheep to entertain the dog. The first 10 years in sheep were to entertain a dog. And only after this last hurricane, our insurance, farm liability insurance, went from $2,000 to $8,000. Insane. That's shameful. It's a 12-acre field or a 10-acre field. They may be in here, but I opened up a gate into a 20-acre field. They could be there. There is more grass than you can shake a stick at, okay? I don't have to plan. This is a marital issue as much as a farming operation. I see one sheep bedded down underneath that tree, okay? So I'm gonna make a big circle around them, and then we'll just kind of circle in. I went for 10 years believing that I had worm-resistant sheep. I accidentally bought a herd of fancy show sheep, not knowing they were fancy show sheep. I said to myself, well, I had made the mental commitment that I wasn't going to use pharmaceuticals. The first year, half of them died, but half of them lived. They elected to participate. And the next year, so all the black you see has Dorper in it. And selectively, I got more sheep that survived. So I thought that I was breeding worm-resistant sheep. Then one year, a buyer backs out. I had put aside his animals, his 30 ram lambs, and then he backs out on me on the day of the holy day. And it's like losing a sale on December 25th for or Thanksgiving Day for turkeys, you're not going to sell those again, right? And I thought I was stubborn and foolish, and I thought, well, I'll sell them to somebody else. Huh. And they sat in that pen. Plenty of food. They sat in a pen that was highly concentrated with fecal material from other sheep for many years. They got a heavy dose of worms. So do I have worm-resistant sheep, or do I just have a lot of fences? I bring those, not, you're recording this? The 30 sheep are in that pen, and little by little by little, they all die of worms. And it's a multi-acre pen in high grass, but it's grass that had been heavily contaminated years of
perpetual exposure.
Yeah, perpetual exposure. Every one of their sisters out in the main flock rotating lived. So if I had worm-resistant sheep, maybe those rams
Confinement basically was a litmus test.
Yeah. So do I have worm-resistant sheep, or do I have management practices that... So you see all of those spikes that have no leaves on them?
Yeah.
The sheep have stripped the cypress weed. They've eaten a lot of weed in here. I mean, they have opportunity to eat regular grass, and they have chosen to eat the weeds.
Rainfall.
53 to 60. And it's evenly dispersed throughout the entire year. September, October, and November are our driest months, right when we need to be planting ryegrass. 5 inches a month. I never graze my sheep within one pasture 40 acres away from the highway. So people really don't know that I have sheep. My dogs are never tempted to go eat dead bodies on the road. The sheep are grazed in an inner sanctum sanctorum, never on the highway. You see the one goat moving slow? The dairy cattle industry has taken this to an automated stage of being able to identify lame animals. Well, sheep are gonna lie to you. They'll limp now, but you put them in a corral to take care of them. I'll just say that I have tried 18 times to raise goats. And I'm a veterinarian. My special interest was parasitology. And I have 20 years, no, there's one goat. You start with 18 and you end up with one. And it is as much behavior as anything else. They won't stay with the herd. They go off and visit the coyotes. It's as much behavior as it is anything else.
I think what we noticed with the 1.5 to 2 years we've had ours is they're fence jumpers too. So if anything's low enough, they're over the top.
Yeah.
The sheep don't want to do that.
Now, on the positive side, and I hope you're recording this, Kathy Voth has given workshops. She's in Arizona. She runs the online magazine called On Pasture. She has written the book called Cows Eat Weeds, and it's about how animals learn to eat what they're going to eat, them to eat. Look at that sunrise. When we have goats and when we have lambs simultaneously, the lambs learn some of foraging behaviors of the goats. They go into the woods and stand and they imitate goat behaviors. Now, are you familiar with the diagram? It's got 3 circles that what a cow eats, what a sheep eats, and what a goat eats.
No, I've not seen it, but I understand where you're going. Okay. There's going to be some
confluence and some unique areas. And it is possible during the right life cycle of the right what do they call it, teachable moments. If you can catch the lambs during their teachable moments, you can change. Manipulating the behavior of sheep, manipulating the behavior of any animal to change their grazing profile. So I wish I could. Here, dog. Do you want me to get the dog out of the way? Because I can feed him. Is that sunrise? Yeah, watching that every morning, drinking coffee and watching the sheep go by is a reason to get up at 5 a.m.
Is this a girl or a boy?
All females.
All females. So is there a reason for that?
It happened to be females that worked out. That is the only dog I purchased. That dog has a name. It's Xena Warrior Princess. Pay attention to what Texas Ag Life has. They will tell you how to raise puppies, how to raise livestock guardian dog puppies. Your tax, when you sell a sheep in Texas, $1 of it, some portion of it, I don't know what it is, goes to something called the Predator Control Board.
Yeah.
And they do a phenomenal job of real research. They fund helicopters to shoot coyotes, but they fund studies on real farms over how raising a puppy under different circumstances predisposes it to wandering or not wandering or bonding.
And is this all basically just searchable information online?
Bill Con, I'll give you the paperwork, and y'all should go to Texas Ag Life. San Angelo, August. Not a single speaker there is a PhD graduate student fulfilling their requirements for their, everybody raises sheep themselves. My one lone goat. Goaty goat, who without a male friend would love to be a mother. We inherited the cattle and the land. We did not know how many cows we had or where they were. We had 700 acres and we were leasing another 200. So we had 1,000 acres that we were responsible for. And we couldn't tell you how many cows we owned or where they were. We had 3 fences on 1,000 acres. So NRCS helped us contain fence 228 acres. So we rotate through those now and then flash. When each of my children married, I gave them a crop of lambs. So the 2014 and 2017, you won't see any of my sheep with those ear tags. They stayed right around the house. Coyotes. I have a book of coyote deaths. They have killed coyotes from me to that fence right there ahead of us, that close to my house. Coyotes have slaughtered, and that's to this day. Like those 60 lambs that I have for sale, no, I have 60 lambs in a pen. I have gotten the cash for those lambs. They belong to somebody else. And one of them got killed a couple of days ago. With livestock guardian dogs over here, I'm in a real pickle for maintaining a breeding program. Because if my rams, I put bells on my rams so that if they run, they'll go ding, 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 ding. And I chain a livestock guardian dog up where I put them up. I think I'm a pretty good parasitology, student. I can't keep goats alive. Partially parasites and partially their propensity to go visit the coyote. They just won't stay with the herd. The livestock guardian dog can't protect what he can't.
Yeah,
Look at that's iron clay peas. That's the reason that I went from 87 lambs to 226 lambs.
Why?
It's called flushing. It's called weight gain right prior to ovulation. I planted that for a $200 semen test and found out that half my rams were sterile. Quickly scrambled to find some more different rams. Then $400 of seed for the iron clay peas. And Premier One company, I was whining to them about something. I wasn't regularly using their salt. I didn't purchase their products. I purchased their products, but not their salt. And they said, lady, you've been a good customer all these years. I'll send you it was like a 3-month supply of free salt and see if that doesn't affect. So I don't know one of the 3 things.
So what kind of salt was it?
Yeah, I'll show you the bag. It's what they use for, what they endorse for reproduction. So between the iron clay peas, and the salt supplement, and semen testing, those 3 factors, 87, 226. Numbers don't lie.